Trump is at war with the City of London and the Bank of England, and he's clearly about to throw Western Europe to the wolves in trying to befriend Russia, do a deal with Russia, have peace with Russia, and try to peel off Russia from China. I think, and I want your reaction on this, I think Trump is going to end the sanctions on Russia. He's going to unfreeze the 300 billion of Russian funds, or at least he's going to try to. He'll have to strong arm a bunch of European lunatics in order to make that happen. I think Trump wants to do trade and deals with Russia. He wants to lower the price of energy in order to boost the U.S. economy and also decrease the energy revenues for Russia. He'll make Russia the friend, and then he'll try to turn Russia and the world against China, which is the far, bigger threat, like geopolitically, technology, AI, all that stuff. What do you make of that analysis?
I think it's plausible. I see the logic in it. I don't know how close Xi Jinping and Putin have become.
Yeah, I don't either.
How tight their relationship is. I think that would be the beginning of the right thing to do. Look, the BRICS nations became a thing largely because of the way that they were treated by the West, the strong arming, the sanctions, and I think going after them with a stick is not the answer. In fact, saying that they're going to impose 100% tariffs on them is not the answer, and that's not a tariff; that's a sanction.
I agree.
Masquerading as a tariff. So yes, I would be all for it. If the BRICS broke up, fine. I'd be all for it. If we had a world that was safer for our kids to grow up in, and this path that we have been led down over the last 4 years was a very frightening one. If you have children and grandchildren, and the world that they were growing up in, God help us, had the previous administration won, and thank God for Trump.
Do you think the big boys are just trying to accumulate in secret, or something else?
Yeah, I mean, the public usually is so far off the trail. It's not even funny. You have the most well-informed traders in the world scurrying to acquire and repatriate gold, put it in their own possession, and the public is in the chasing the Trump trade, the risk on trade. And the funny thing about that, you look at it, it's the exact same thing in reverse. Gold hasn't had a down week in 2025. It's up 8 weeks in a row, you would think. And seeing what we're seeing here, where the most massive inflows in the history of the COMEX market and deliveries, the biggest deliveries in the history of the COMEX market are happening, the public's chasing the other side. And as the public is chasing the other side, you have I'm talking record insider selling, where for every one purchase by an insider, 6 are selling. And it's really like increasing the insider selling. The public has been misdirected, and that's exactly right. And look, gold isn't sexy enough. It was up 30-40% over the last 365 days. No one notices it. It's up 9.9% annualized compounding since 2000. No one notices it. It's not the triple digit gains that we're used to seeing in cryptocurrencies and Nvidia, and so it's gone unnoticed. Largely, the volatility, the counterintuitive price action has made people not notice it. And that's exactly how the big money wants it to be. They can short the price. They can do it in a counterintuitive manner when it should be going up. They can make it volatile. The public just breezes right by it and moves into this euphoric dopamine-laced Trump trade. And I think it's very ominous when you look at the setup. Look, gold was up 27%, I believe, last year. But over the last 365 days, that's much higher as it's gone up recently. So look, the public is largely missing this, and it's a contrarian indicator to the nth degree when you see a scurry by the biggest money in the world. And really, it's been going on for quite some time. The central banks, to me, are not just the most well-financed traders, they're the most well-informed. They know where this is all going. And you wouldn't see them doing this, let alone reclassifying gold as the world's only other tier 1 reserve asset, if it weren't very important. The price of gold has moved up for 8 straight weeks, hasn't had a down week in February. And the ETFs, in particular GLD, has seen huge outflows, which to me is counterintuitive, right?
Yeah,
And
that's crazy.
the conventional wisdom, Andy, would be, well, stronger dollar, rising interest rates, profit taking, Trump trade, Nvidia, no, none of that's true at all. And in fact, if you look at the prospectus on GLD, you and I, Andy, could never take possession of the metal out of it. None of us could. You have to be like a commercial bank who has the ability to fund a basket or to take a basket, tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars. They can do it. And over the last several weeks, 16 tons, record withdrawals, have come out of GLD. That's the same thing as share redemptions. People are redeeming their shares and leaving, right? That's what the talking heads say. Or is it? No, it's an inverse share redemption by like players like JP and Goldman who take their shares privately without the visibility we would see on other exchanges like COMEX, and they redeem their shares inward, which decreases the number of shares outstanding, but they pull out the physical metal instead. The wealthy elites are removing physical from the ETFs and to consolidate control over the real assets. JP Morgan, who I want to talk about in a moment related to the ETFs, is set to deliver for the February contract $4 billion worth of gold. Now, their former trade desk manager, Blythe Masters, she ran the gold desk, said on YouTube several years ago, it's still out there, you can find it easily, that JP Morgan does not buy gold and silver for themselves, that it's bought for customers. Well, who the hell's got $4 billion? Now, I have an idea who I think it is. I think it's the either the Treasury or the Fed, but I'll leave that up to people to decide for themselves. $4 billion, that's one of the largest shipments ever. But to give you an idea just of how different things really are, the February gold contract, which is a 100-ounce contract per unit per contract, saw 59,296 contracts stand for delivery. That is by far the largest delivery in the history of the COMEX market. In June of 2020, during QE Forever, there was a delivery of 47,132, which is the next highest delivery in the history of the COMEX. And this could very quickly push prices considerably higher as there is a scramble for physical. And it could put some of these banks, these clearing banks or bullion banks, to the brink of collapse or default. This is an existential threat to these banks, which in my mind would trigger a cascading event. Obviously, it would jeopardize the LBMA's ability to settle contracts, but at T plus 8 weeks right now, you could argue it already is a default. And this is the largest over-the-counter market in the world for gold. Most of the transactions there are settled in paper rather than physical, but now we're beginning to see a cascade of delivery demands, which very quickly can expose the whole system and or create a run on the vaults, just like a run on the banks, and realizing that there's not enough physical gold there to cover. This has never happened before. To give you an idea of just how big it really is, the largest delivery that we've ever seen in the history of the COMEX market is 47,132 contracts. That's 4,713,200 ounces of gold. That happened in June of 2020 during QE to infinity. For the February contract, we just saw 59,296 contracts stand for delivery. By far, by over 12,000 contracts, it's the largest delivery ever in the history of the COMEX market. That's almost 6 million ounces of gold.
This is physical delivery.
Physical delivery. Who's got that money, right? It's all coming from London. You're talking massive deliveries. And the premium right now in New York versus London has hit as high as about $80 an ounce, meaning they're supposed to just be a few cents away from each other, or you would get arbitrage. It's $80. Well, it's come off that now, but at its peak last week, it was $82 per ounce more expensive to buy gold in New York than it was in London, because they want in London to attract you to buy more of the paper, whereas in New York, it's standing for delivery. This
Right.
is massive signs of stress.